We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community.
Welcome, friends, gathered in the sanctuary, on Zoom, and later on our YouTube channel. It is so good to be together. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Franklin, to the Smoky Mountains of western North Carolina, of Northeast Georgia, and the ancestral land of the Cherokee people. We're a lay-led congregation of progressive minds and caring connections for over 53 years. My name is Mary Teslow, and I'm delighted to be your service leader this morning. We extend a warm welcome to those who may be visiting with us today for the first time or returning after a while. We're so glad you're with us and look forward to getting to know you better. There'll be an opportunity to introduce yourself later in the service, and you can sign up for our newsletter in the guest book in the foyer. As we gather each Sunday, we take a moment to greet each other on Zoom and here in the sanctuary, affectionately the Zoomies and the Roomies. Roomies, please rise. Embody your spirit as we wave a hello and stay standing for our gathering song. So you turn to your right and wave to the camera above the door, and they'll wave back to us. Yay, a little waving hands coming up. Awesomely good. And now our gathering song, Spirit of Life.
And for folks that are visiting, we're learning it in sign language, so just follow along. We'll get there together.
Spirit of love, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow with the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, giving life the shape of justice.
you.
Welcome, everyone.
We appreciate our Sunday service team, Warren, Ben, Edgar, Penny on Zoom, and Claire for our YouTube channel. We're also very appreciative of Laura Lovelace for these beautiful flowers, and she did the centerpieces for our Thanksgiving gathering on Friday. This was one of them, and they were absolutely gorgeous. And Lara brought a beautiful big poinsettia, which is also downstairs, so we're appreciative of that. And also our greeters, our greeter Barbara, and our hospitality Dana and Karen. We appreciate everyone who's a volunteer. We are volunteers, all of us, yay. Absolutely. So announcements for the fellowship or the community will start on Zoom if we have any. Please be sure to keep it up to date by checking the UU View, our website, and the bulletin board downstairs in Celebration Hall. Our fellowship is a light for liberal religion in the mountains that values diversity and the richness that it brings to our community. Our celebration of diversity is reflected in the variety of our Sunday services. In addition to different topics, our service sequence and length sometimes vary. We hope today's service enriches your journey of discovery. This morning, we celebrate Unitarian Universalism as a living tradition which draws from many sources, including humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. This Sunday, we'll explore our UU Humanist Heritage with a video story and sermon by Reverend Krista Taves of the Eliot Chapel in St. Louis, Missouri. Our chalice lighting. We light this chalice to honor our humanist heritage, a tradition of curiosity, compassion, and ethical living. May the small flame remind us to seek truth and to work together to shape a more just world. Our opening words. From the Greek philosophers who dared to question, to the Renaissance thinkers who celebrated human potential, to the Enlightenment voices who championed liberty and justice, to the modern humanists who continue this legacy. We honor those who trusted in human capacity for goodness, who believed in progress through knowledge and ethical action, who saw that meaning comes not from divine decree, but from the love we share and the justice we create. Our opening hymn is 1017 from the Teal Hymnal and celebrates this building of a new way.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Reverend Krista Taves is a Generation X UU minister serving Eliot Unitarian Universalist Chapel in St. Louis, Missouri since 2020. She's a dual citizen, having moved from Canada to the U.S. in 2004. While planning to dedicate her life to studying the politics of the Canadian-Russian Mennonite community of her heritage, another path opened before her, and she pursued the Unitarian Universalist ministry at the Toronto School of Theology, specializing in pastoral care. Her social justice passions are LGBTQ+, racial, reproductive, and environmental justice. She and her partner are gradually transforming their small property in the Merrimack River Valley into a Missouri native plant sanctuary. We'll begin with her Time for All Ages, a humanist story called Who is Ben? And she'll invite everyone who's interested up to the front.
I would invite the children and youth, and actually anyone who wishes, to come forward for our Time for All Ages. Hi. Very nice. Good morning. Hello. Hi. Oh, we got a whole lot of people. Hi. We got a whole bunch of kiddos coming down from down the stairs. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Oh, there we go. Few more yet. Wow, that's a lot of kids. Come on up. It's great to see so many kids. And youth, and adults, really all of you. All right, so today's story is set in the humanist tradition. We're talking about humanism today, which is the idea that as humans, we have our capacities for goodness and love and truth and hope and healing, each one of us in our hearts, and that we're part of the earth, and literally part of the earth, and the earth is part of us. And in our faith, we have a lot of respect for science. In fact, sometimes our science is brought into our religion. So, for instance, the theory of evolution is a sacred theory for us, because it really shows us how we have all changed and evolved over time to come to be who we are today. And the field of astronomy, whoa, that's a big one for us too, because we learn from astronomy that the earth is made of stardust, and that because we're from the earth, we are also made of stardust. And that's a pretty, pretty beautiful thing. And that is the spirit of the story, Who is Ben? By Charlotte Zolotow, and pictures by Catherine Jacoby. It was a very dark night. No moon, no stars. But inside Ben's house, it was warm and cozy. He didn't turn on the light when he went upstairs to his room. He crossed in the darkness and looked out the window. He couldn't see the house across the street. He couldn't see the front steps of his own house. He couldn't see the giant copper beech tree that grew in their yard. Just blackness. Everything black. It was as though there was nothing in the world. He couldn't see himself. He was part of the indoor blackness, which was part of the outdoor blackness. It was a strange, secret feeling. He felt that he was all there was. He felt he was not really here. He was really the blackness itself, smooth and velvety and dark and safe. He was blended with the black night with no moon, no stars, no copper beech, no front steps. No one else in the world. just the big enfolding dark that was part of him, that he was part of, as though in this quiet darkness he was the moon and the stars and the copper beach. Just then his mother came in the room and turned on the light. The room around him was warm and cozy, the bed turned down, and the bureau and desk and chair looked bright and exciting as though he had never seen them before. "Why are you in the dark?" his mother said. But instead of answering, he surprised them both. "Where was I before I was born?" he asked. And he felt the answer. He had been part of that strange, trembling, huge blackness with no light and no sound, no beginning and no end. "And where will I be when I die?" And again, he felt the answer. And he felt that lovely, soft, enfolding blackness. No moon, no stars, no beginning, no end. He was it, and it was Ben. And that is the end of our story.
Thank you for coming up to listen to the story. Wonderful. And now Reverend Krista continues her exploration of our UU Humanist Heritage with her sermon.
So one of the things you'll learn if you stick around here for a while is that I often tell stories from the past. We are a faith tradition where many of us do not know our stories. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but the two major reasons, first, is that the majority of our people join as adults and haven't gone through our religious education program that teaches some of our history. So I include history in many of my messages to help provide that foundation so that you understand the faith tradition that you have joined or are considering joining. And a second reason is that we have evolved so much over the centuries that it's easy to think that our history doesn't have much to offer us, that it is as obsolete as a BlackBerry. Got that? But a lot of messy, hurtful things happen when we turn away from our history. And that includes the stories that we can be proud of and the stories that show us our shadow side. Without these stories, there's no foundation, there's no common understanding of who we are and what it means. Connecting to our heritage helps us to reflect on the values that have kept us together through the centuries. And this helps us avoid what Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd calls fake fights that distract us from focusing on our mission, which is to be bearers of transformation and justice and to be always evolving so that we can give and receive love, the larger love that we are all a part of and from which we come. So today I want to tell you part of the story of how religious humanism came into American Unitarianism, a faith that started out as solidly Christian. It's a pretty dramatic story because was a lot of struggle about this. When humanism showed up, the traditionalists so strongly resisted it that they passed a form of creedalism to exclude those who wanted change. Creedalism means that you have to believe certain things to belong. Many of us have experienced creedalism if we came into Unitarian Universalism from another tradition. We needed more freedom to find things out for ourselves. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because that's the middle of the story. I want to start by giving you some background by going through 2,500 years of humanist history in less than 2 minutes so that we can get to the juicy stuff. Unless you think I am super smart, This is all written in William R. Murray's book, Reason and Reverence, Religious Humanism for the 21st Century. Does anybody want to time me? All right. Ready, set, go. In 500 BCE, the ancient Greek philosopher Protagoras said, "Man is the measure of all things," which was way out there for a time when most people believed that gods, goddesses, and spirits directed everything. Then Greek humanism went underground because it fell, and then the Roman Empire rose, and the Roman Empire became Christian, but 2,000 years later, Greek humanism was resurrected in Renaissance Western Europe in the 16th century, with theologians suggesting a lot of things that were considered heresies, like not focusing so much on where we're going after we die and more on the world that we are living now. They said humans are not depraved, but beings of ethical and intellectual worth. And at the same time, the Protestant Reformation with James Luther said we did not need priests to find our way to God. We could all have a personal relationship to God. And starting in the 18th century, philosophers took it even further. Immanuel Kant rejected traditional arguments for the existence of God. David Hume and John Locke developed a modern and skeptical worldview. Ludwig Feuerbach said God is a human invention, and Friedrich Schleiermacher said religion was an internal experience. And it was discovered the Gospels were written long after Jesus' death, there could never have been a great flood, and that the earth isn't flat. Gradually, the idea of individualism was born, that each person is separate and unique. This was an entirely new way of looking at humanity. So we considered that you could have a personal experience of God and meaning making. You could dare to question the existence of God, doubt the stories of the Gospels, and consider scientific discoveries that didn't match with the Bible. We weren't creatures of sin. We could use reason and rationality to make a better world. And yes, every person I've mentioned was white, upper class, Western, and male. So this thinking wasn't available to most people, and hasn't that been true for too long? But there you have it, and that brings us to the late 1700s when Unitarianism emerged in the United States, in Canada, and in Britain. Did I make it? It should have been about 1 minute and 47 seconds, because I timed it last night.
1:59.
All right, just barely. Yes, score! Because I made some new stuff up while I was talking. Unitarianism was created by people who wanted to bring the principles of individualism, reason, rationality, and respect for science into their Christian faith. They rejected the idea of original sin and creeds that you had to believe in to be a Christian. This new Christianity was a place for freedom of thought and conscience. They believed in a personal experience of God. They didn't see the Bible as written by God or that Jesus was God. They were so radical that they were ridiculed and shunned by other Christians, but they persevered together. And in the 1820s, in Boston, Massachusetts, which is where American Unitarianism started, there was a feeling that Unitarian Christianity was on solid footing, and it was onwards and upwards from there. They had it they had it all figured out, and they just need to keep going. No change needed anymore. So you can guess that only lasted so long. You know how there comes this time in our lives, and some of you may have not arrived here yet, but you will, when you're pushing your grocery cart around the store and suddenly you realize that the music that's playing was like cutting edge when you were young, and now it's the background while you're picking out vegetables. And you're like, how did that happen? That's what happened to American Unitarianism in the 1830s. The kids of the early rebellious Christian Unitarians who had stuck out their necks with this radical faith. These kids were saying, you did not go far enough, because you still assumed that the only way to experience God is through Christianity. What if you can get to God without the Bible, without Jesus, just by focusing on your own soul? They were the transcendentalists. And the older radicals now became the traditionalists, holding down the fort they had created, and they actively tried to suppress these ideas. It was a huge family crisis, our first family crisis, actually. Now, these traditionalists, their intentions worked in the Northeast where they were in control. But there were now also congregations in Ohio, Illinois, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Michigan, Wisconsin, who were very open to these ideas. Notice I didn't say Missouri. That came a lot later. But many of these congregations in these free states called themselves the New Radicals. And the movement grew and grew until it was the predominant way to be Unitarian in the West. So they were still theists. We hadn't gotten further than that yet, but there was a possibility of being a person of faith and not being Christian. That was, can you imagine trying to be that kind of person in the 1800s? In 1853, they got tired of getting ministers from Boston who didn't accept this, and they even started their own seminary in Chicago called Lombard College to support the formation of ministers outside of traditional Unitarianism. And today that is the modern Meadville Lombard School of the Ministry. And then in 1859, another thing kind of shook things apart, which is that Charles Darwin published Origin of the Species and offered a theory of evolution where there was no hand of God, but rather natural selection where species with genes that fit a particular environment were more likely to survive than those that didn't. And it seemed like evolution didn't need God at all. So if you didn't need to be Christian, and if you didn't need to be theist, then why not be a humanist? They weren't exactly using those words yet in 1859, but for some Unitarians, they came to the conclusion that you could hold onto all the values of our faith that we held in common, like reason and rationality, the valuing of science, the centrality of personal experience, without having to get there through God. Everything we needed to understand our place was in nature, which we were part of. So in 1865, the traditionalists called an emergency national convention. And they passed a creed, because there was still more of them than there were of the radicals. They passed a creed affirming allegiance to our Lord Jesus Christ. The goal was to force the radicals to either accept Christianity as the only way to be Unitarian or to leave. It was kind of like our first attempt at like a heresy trial, which we're not really supposed to do. But it was an attempt to intentionally exclude certain beliefs. So the radicals went on their own direction, and in 1867 they formed the Free Religious Association. Many of them remained Unitarian ministers. They were soon joined by humanist rabbis and the founder of the ethical culture movement, Felix Adler, who founded the ethical culture societies like the Ethical Society of St. Louis, right here in Missouri. And a whole lot of Unitarian ministers gave up on Unitarianism and went into the ethical culture movement. But it is important to state in this time that humanism did not mean atheism. That came later. Most humanists weren't atheists, but the feeling was that God did not need our attention for us to be moral and ethical beings. So why not spend our energy in a better way? Now, this division within Unitarianism was exhausting. You know, it kind of reminds me of what it's like when family members or friends are estranged from each other. You're not talking, you're not hanging out, but the relationship is still hanging there, taking space in your consciousness. And the silence and separation is the relationship. And you're still making choices in your life, still claiming an identity in light of that relationship, even when you are not conscious of it. You may never speak again. And sometimes that is for the best if the relationship was really hurtful, but it doesn't mean the relationship has ended. It's just taken a new form. And what happened between the two sides is that there was so much enmity that they made a lot of decisions in light of who they saw as the opposite side from them. So they were still in relationship, even though they weren't going to the same meetings, they weren't reading the same theologians, they weren't going to the same schools. There was still a relationship, and it was exhausting, because sometimes you had two congregations in the same town. So, for instance, there was a church started here in St. Louis. The Unity Church of St. Louis was started intentionally to be for the radicals, because the Church of the Messiah, which was the first Unitarian church, was not open to anything but Unitarian Christianity. And the people who were there found out that there just wasn't going to be any place for them. And Chicago, like the Western Unitarian Conference based in Chicago, actually intentionally started a new church here in St. Louis called the Unity Church, so that there could be a place for radical Unitarians in St. Louis. Now, that church merged in 1930, in the 1930s, for reasons of necessity, but some say that some of the challenges in that church are still rooted in that original division. So you see, it cost us a lot. In the 1890s, enough people on both sides decided that the estrangement was too much. It was costing too much, and they needed to find common ground. And they actually met. And after long, long meetings, I can't even imagine how I would sit through meetings that long, they affirmed a statement of faith that made room for them all. And there was peace for a little more than a decade. Just a decade. It's a good try. Because then World War I started in 1914. And it was supposed to last a few months, and it dragged into 4 years. And it was a gruesome, bloody war with huge casualties. And World War I made a lot of people of faith very cynical about God and about human nature, and there was this feeling that human nature itself needed to be rehabilitated, that we had abandoned who we really were, which were creatures of goodness and hope and love and justice. So our focus needed to be less on belief and more on helping our very wounded world heal. And this is when social justice really gelled as a central tenet of Unitarianism. There was social justice before, but it was not so widely understood as being really an integral part of being Unitarian. But that started after World War I. And it wasn't about what you believed for so many Unitarians anymore. Were you helping to build what the humanists called the commonwealth of man? And this is when humanism really began to grow in our movement, because so many of us were hungry to let go of stuff that we felt was holding us back and to do something that made a difference here, that could help us move away from the self-destruction that we had just gone through. More and more ministers began identifying themselves as humanists. And when the war ended, it was the churches these ministers served that were bursting at the seams. And this is when we saw the last organized attempt of the traditionalists to try and hold onto their power. At the General Conference in Detroit in 1821, the theme was the faith that is in us. And once again, the traditionalists made the argument that Unitarianism would descend into utter chaos if there was not a God at the center of it. It would mean nothing, do nothing, leave nothing behind. Humanism would destroy us. That was the message. And the doomsday message, it didn't work. This even turned off many of the Christians who didn't want to be identified with this kind of fear-mongering. So the conference ended with a fragile unity of the different sides intact, and we entered into a time of moral clarity, where Christians, non-Christian theists, and humanists shared a deep concern for the well-being of humanity and saw our congregations as a place to build up a moral consciousness rooted in the values of reason, justice, love. They hoped that this could bring humanity itself together in ultimate freedom and liberation. And it was just in time, because 9 years later the stock market would crash and the Great Depression would begin, and that is when the first Humanist Manifesto that we read the preamble to today, that's when it was written. In a time when so many were losing trust in the systems that no one thought could fall apart. And then World War II hit. So much for the war that would end all wars. And it's like the floodgates were opened in our faith, and humanism grew so much that it became the primary way to be Unitarian, and the presence of Christians in our movement started to shrink. Now that is also a difficult story, and I'll get to that story in another sermon, or we would be here all morning. Because what had happened was that an informal creed had been created excluding those who weren't humanist. And then we had to learn again what a faith grounded in freedom of belief and freedom of conscience really looks like. But like I said, that's for another day. What's important for us to remember now is that so much of how we experience Unitarian Universalism is a result of the tremendous and freeing influence of humanism. Unitarianism changed from being only Christian and only theist to welcoming more ways of being a person of faith. And it's that room that we still offer today that has drawn so many of us into this faith. Humanism is so strong that even those of us who have a belief in a transcendent power, we frame our belief through a humanist lens, understanding that it's through our own human eyes and our human bodies and our human minds that we make sense of what is bigger than us. We have a deep and abiding love of humanity itself and commit ourselves to lives of moral and ethical choices. And we make little and big choices in our lives, thinking of not only what is good for us as individuals, but what is best for all of us, for all of humanity. And we know that we can't wait for a God or something bigger than us to do it for us. It rests on us to bring healing and hope into our broken time. So we are both the problem and we are the solution. And it's still pretty radical. We live in a country that probably couldn't yet elect a humanist for president, eh? Every president so far has had to make a declaration of faith that is grounded in theism. We still live in times when it takes courage to step outside that way of being a person of faith. And if you're not a humanist, please don't think I'm telling you that there's no place for you or that your faith doesn't have courage. That is absolutely not true. I know your faith takes courage. I know it takes ongoing discernment and conviction. And our faith has a long track record of courage. From those first Christians who took on all that ridicule, to the radicals who believed you could love God without being Christian, to the humanists who risked being alienated in a faith tradition that they loved and believed in. So this is part of our story. For those of you who grew up in Unitarian Universalism, this is your inheritance. If you became Unitarian Universalist as an adult, this legacy became part of your story when you signed the membership book. And for those of you who are considering this faith, is this a legacy that you could be proud to accept? And if you've been around for a while, there may be a time when your way of being Unitarian is challenged by those with new ideas and ways of being faithful. Will we be like the traditionalists who resisted? Or will we welcome the changes even if it means being uncomfortable and lost for a little while? So this morning, let us be thankful for those who preceded us in all their greatness and all their imperfections. They have given us so much.
We can be appreciative of Reverend Krista as she guided us through this story as we face our current challenges of change, as we navigate all of that. We are so grateful for all the diverse gifts of time, talent, and treasure that are given by so many in love and in hope. One of the ways you can support this beloved community is through our Fellowship Endowment Trust. Warren Riley will share the mission of the FET and ways to donate, particularly at this time of the year, with Giving Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, December 2nd.
we're so fortunate to have new members and new attendees. As you become more and more familiar with UUFF, our fellowship, you will probably come across FEET, or FET. That's an acronym for the Fellowship Endowment Trust. And what is it? It is something like an insurance policy. What if some disaster should befall us? And when we began to talk about the putting this trust together, actually it goes back quite far before the actual addition of the addendum to the bylaws of the fellowship. And people were putting money in an account. It was sort of like Scout's honor that it wouldn't be touched. And people were saying, what could happen? We've suffered times when there was a controversy in the church and controversial people in the church and so on and so forth. And then COVID came along. And that was one thing that could happen. It could happen again. We live in disturbing times where not only our country is in turmoil, you can imagine perhaps even some edict from the executive saying that, only Christian churches can be tax-free. The taxes of this property and our income would probably equal our budget. So people are getting tired of the war in Ukraine, but there are disturbances, not only in Europe, but in, say, Taiwan, Japan. Those places there could be some catastrophic things there. So the FET is a reserve. And in a sense, it's money. It's money that could rebuild the fellowship if it suddenly went out of existence or was teetering on existence. And that fund has grown as many people have donated to it. We are so fortunate that we have people that weren't members of the fellowship donate to the fund. We have members that don't ever get to attend, but yet they are donating to the fund. What am I to say next? So that fund is there, and it's an insurance policy that the fellowship will exist. And we think we are very important because we are the light for liberal religion in this part of the country. All you have to do is look around. There are, I believe there are at least 4 signs on the road that I take to go home. 3 of them are for Baptist churches, and the 4th is for the shooting range. So we're in a conservative area. there is a committee of 3 people that manage this money, and it is very good for people who are leaving legacy contributions. We hope all of you live long lives, but there is a point where you will probably not need your money anymore. And the Endowment Trust is here, and that is one place you can donate to the fellowship. And it will be, it's not in the general fund. It can't be. If you put money in the general fund, you think, well, it could just go for somebody's pet project and a beautification or whatever of this. So it is reserved for, there are certain ways that this fund can help out the fellowship with the project. We can loan a certain amount of our money to the fellowship with some guarantees of it being paid back. But in any case, the Fellowship Endowment Trust is there. It's going to be there for a long, long time. And we invite your donations to the trust. And you can give a check to Bonnie, our treasurer. Just designate that it is for the FET, Fellowship Endowment Trust. And we would be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. And now please join me in the dedication of our gifts. Gifts given in love and hope continue a cycle of love and hope. So may it be. Thank you for your support. All financial gifts are appreciated. There's an offering plate at the sanctuary entry where there are also stamped addressed envelopes to mail. Donations are also welcome electronically, including a PayPal link on our website in the UU View. There's also the celebration jar here and a basket for coffee hour donations downstairs in Celebration Hall. As we prepare for joys and concerns, know that they will be edited out before they're posted online. It is a joy to welcome visitors this morning. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please raise your hand on Zoom first if we have anyone. We are all well known to each other, which is awesome. If there's anyone in the sanctuary that would like to introduce themselves, we'll bring a microphone to you. It'll be on its way in just a second. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. As we journey through life, each of us reaches high and low points. By sharing the peaks and valleys of our journeys and other significant events in our lives, our sorrows are lightened and our joys are enhanced. If you'd like, you're welcome to share a brief special joy or concern, and I'll follow those with, and I'll drop a pebble in the water. We'll begin with those on Zoom, and we'll follow with those in the sanctuary, and we invite you to line up by the piano. So do we have anyone? Wonderful. As we acknowledge and honor the joys and concerns that were spoken, and those that were unspoken, but kept in silence in our hearts and minds. And we now invite you into a minute of silence. You can choose to meditate, pray, reflect on something you heard here today, or simply sit silently in community with others, and I'll bring you back with the chimes. And now as we finish our service, Joe Eckstein is going to share some words on honoring World AIDS Day, which is tomorrow, December 1st.
Hi, I'm Joe Eckstein. Please pardon me, my sinuses today are giving me a little action on this cold, wet day. And I'm also trying out a new hearing aid. So I may sound loud to me, but not to you, so please let me know if you can't hear me. World AIDS Day is always December 1st. It was set aside by the World Health Organization to commemorate and remember those who have died from AIDS, those who are living with AIDS, and to help promote the research that can hopefully one day eliminate this terrible disease. But on December 1st, World Health Organization joins partners and communities to commemorate World AIDS Day 2025. There's a theme every year. This year it's overcoming disruption, of which there has been many disruptions this year, and transforming the AIDS response, which means having to regroup, going in other directions because of loss of grants, finances from basically the governments, not just here in the U.S., but around the world, actually. And they're also calling for sustained political leadership, international cooperation, and human rights-centered approaches to end AIDS by hopefully 2030. Every year since 1988, the administration has recognized World AIDS Day and commemorated it with ceremonies. This year, however, this administration is no longer recognizing World AIDS Day. They have pushed it aside and no longer recognizing it as even a problem. So basically what is happening is all financial contributions to AIDS research, vaccine developments, etc., is gone. But after decades of progress, the HIV response stands at a crossroads. Life-saving services are being disrupted, and many communities face heightened risks and vulnerabilities. Yet amid these challenges, hope endures. In the determination, resilience, and innovation of communities who strive to end AIDS. If you think the old adage, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, hell hath no fury like a gay person pissed off. And we are. But HIV remains one of the world's most significant health issues. Now I'm going to cloud your mind with some statistics. In 2024, an estimated 40.8 million people were living with HIV globally. 4.2 million in America. Approximately 630,000 people died from HIV-related causes in 2024. 38,000 died in America. But that is a decrease of almost 50% from 2010. So there are advances and there is hope. An estimated 1.3 million people acquired HIV in 2024, 170,000 in the U.S. But that is not only the gay population. It is definitely into the heterosexual population as well. They account for now 30% of all infections in the U.S. Heterosexual contact has now risen to 70% worldwide, mostly in Africa and Asia. But there are advances in treatment. Antiretrovirus therapies are advancing every day. In the early days, the antiviral treatments were called a cocktail. They were actually just a toxic combination that when taken, you either accepted it or your body totally rejected it. Several of my friends back in the 80s tried it. They their bodies just totally rejected it, and they just decided to try to live out the disease, which unfortunately they did not. There's also advances in gene therapy. There are vaccines that are right now being tested, which, if successful, could eliminate HIV by 2030. But again, they need resources. But I can give you data and percentages all day long. But what about what we can do? What about what's going on in our community? There's an organization based in Asheville, which is called WNCAP, Western North Carolina AIDS Project. They came about in about 1988, a group of people getting together to help support the people in Western North Carolina. Even before that, I was living in Asheville in the late 70s, 80s, 90s. When it began to affect the Asheville community in around 1982, all of us got together. The bars, the gay bars in the area got together. The people joined together. We had our own auctions. We had our own fundraisers to help the people that are going through this disease that could not afford their own housing, not that they couldn't work. And that gradually transformed into WNCAP, Western North Carolina AIDS Project. Excuse me. Just this past year, they have assisted with over 4,646 with their WNCAP programs. They have rehoused 57 people who were no longer able to afford their rent. They have given over $738,000 to people for HIV treatments, which can be very expensive. As I understand it, the treatments can be anywhere between $3,000 and $10,000 a month without insurance. Now, this Tuesday, as Warren said, was Giving Day, okay, National Giving Day. There is handouts in the back on the donation table with information about WNCAP. They are they're functioning out of Asheville, but we also have a office here in Franklin, and it has information about that also. So this Giving Day, definitely give to the UU, definitely give to the organizations that you personally have connections with. But think about WNCAP. Think about what you can help in our community, because we no longer have federal funds. Over 25% of WNCAP's funding came from federal. It's gone. They're no longer able to assist as many people as they could before. So they need any donations, either financial or volunteer. I personally have been financially supporting WNCAP since their inception in 1988, as much as I possibly could. And I plan on doing that. And also, I will also be contacting the WNCAP office here in Franklin to hopefully come and speak with us at some point and give you even more information. And I'll be downstairs for a little while if anyone has any questions or comments. I'd love to hear from you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Joe, you ran away with all my papers.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't do that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, thank you. Our closing hymn is number 1019 in the Teal Hymnal by Reverend Fred Small, Everything Possible.
We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Some children grow up strong and bold, while some are quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some take it slow, some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some leave every label behind. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible you'll find. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. The love you leave behind when you're done.
It would be wonderful to have August and Jubilee help with the chalice lighting, chalice extinguishing. Wonderful, wonderful. So we wait just a moment till I say the words, and then you can put the lid on the chalice. That's perfect. He did it before, yeah. Do you want to help this time? Wonderful. So let me say the words, and then you can do it together. All right? We extinguish this chalice, but not the humanist values we carry. Reason, justice, and kindness. May we bring their light with us into all that we do. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. We know you have many options on how to spend your Sunday morning and your holiday weekend. We're deeply grateful that you chose to be in community with us. Following the service, those on Zoom are invited to continue the conversation. Those in the sanctuary are invited to coffee downstairs. Visitors, some of our more extroverted members and friends will use the red cups so you can easily find the folks who want to chat. Next week, we welcome back Friction Farm. Aidan Quinn and Christine stay with their music and Christine's message titled The Long Tale of Racial and Ethnic Bias. She's a Japanese American who will speak on Pearl Harbor Day. Please rise and embody your spirit. Those in the sanctuary may choose to hold hands. See if we can make a fun shape. You may want to join with folks. There we go. We're remembering how to do this. We'll have to have elastic arms, yeah. There we go. Okay. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and community is its goal. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So may it be. So now, roomies, turn to the doorway and wave goodbye to our Zoomies. Bye, Zoomies. It's wonderful